2021 forecasting for each individual rising sign. I would just like to start with a general overview. And I'd also like to start by thanking the Almighty God for protecting us and helping us through 2020, as He will continue doing for us moving forward. Now we will see a shift towards more online schooling, shopping with the North Node in Gemini, as we've seen happening already in 2020, including most forms of communication, trade, other businesses and online businesses will become the norm. Cash will be less heard of, and eventually moving more towards the past and digital forms. So for most of 2021, we could be experiencing some uncomfortability as we have a difficult square aspect in the sky between Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus, both fixed signs that don't really want to budge, and both are co-rulers of this beautiful Aquarian age that we're moving into now. And they are not in a harmonious conversation, and therefore we can expect that this is going to take more work and will take more time before the idealistic Aquarian age can be reached, so to speak. We will have to contend with much more restrictions of our freedoms. We'll have to contend with restrictions that will include freedom of speech on all platforms, probably, information, the internet, separation, probably new legislation in regards to aviation in general and flying. Of course, a lack of privacy goes with tracking, as well as alliance integration. And really it is the old versus the new, and we will see many rebel and stand up for their rights, and we'll also see a lot of disciplinary action and fining throughout the year. It's very much an order out of chaos energy, so I don't want to pretend like this is going to be this amazing year. Of course, there will be blessings. It's very seldom in life where we only have good or only have bad. There's always a mixture of the two, and it'll all depend on how we approach our obstacles. We'll be forced to be more creative and to find new possibilities and to connect to the higher vibration of God. We will probably learn to live more moment to moment and to really appreciate the little things, to appreciate the family, our family that's around us that we normally take for granted. And it will be good for us to stay in gratitude of the things that we do have and do the best with what we can and what we do have, and to focus on nature and on the sunrise, to remind yourself that God is still in control and that the truth is steady and secure. And as long as you're rooted in the truth, nothing can sway you, and it doesn't matter what your circumstances or reality look like, you know where your roots are. So that will be very important throughout the year. And we will be moving towards living much lighter and more flexible. It will be wise to be prepared, and also to really look where you can be of service and of help in the community as well, and how people can help each other. I recently saw in Marketplace a lady that started a group that just basically gives things away. So it's people that maybe they didn't lose their job, and they still have an income and they're still okay, but they have maybe some children's shoes that they don't need anymore, and instead of selling them, they're donating them, or they're just posting it and someone can come pick it up, hey, I've got a size 7 this or that. And people are really starting to come together and help each other out, and I think we'll be seeing a lot more of that. And your currency is really going to become your talents and skills and the things that make you unique. And if you can sew something and someone else can build something, and you can trade services and you can trade things, we're going to see a lot more of that happening going forward. We'll see a lot of ups and downs, like I've said in my previous video as well, of the financial world. We're looking at a global recession for a long time. This is also a time where we will become more aware of each other's similarities and connectedness than each other's differences. And we will be more focused on our purpose and the contemplation of the deeper meaning of life and the deeper side of life. And that'll be more the order of the day. And Jupiter will bring in much learning and also guidance from above to help us navigate through this grief period of the loss of the familiar. And it will allow us to tap into the Creator's energy and make lemonade out of lemons. And through that, we will establish amazing connections with like-minded people, with our Creator, and there will be much spiritual blessings coming from this year going forward. So let's begin with your individual rising signs 2021 forecasting. Welcome, Leo rising, sun or moon. Please listen to your rising sign first, as this will give you the most accurate placement in the forecast. Now, Leo, I'm going to start with Pluto, and where Pluto has been in your 6th house since 2008 and will be until 2023 in Capricorn. Now, with Pluto in the 6th house, you need to, let's start with Pluto. It's a long transit, and Pluto usually starts out, can start out with a crisis, or it can be a bit more difficult in the beginning, and then it gets better as it goes on because it purifies. It takes out what needs to be transformed. So it's really bringing the darkness into the light. So it can sometimes be more painful, whether it's emotional or just difficult in general, in the beginning of the transit. So you're getting closer to the end of that transit now. So it will depend from, of course, person to person where you are in this journey, but your body will be demanding your attention more during the transit through the 6th house. You want to watch not overdoing things or having obsessive tendencies in regards to everyday habits, whether it's food, whether it's exercise, or the lack thereof, whether it's sugar or anything like that. If there's a previous condition that you have ignored or a habit that you've been ignoring, it could maybe reach a critical point during the transit of Pluto in this area. And this can be avoided if you become aware of your body and what it needs and what it's telling you. But in worst case scenario, And of course, this is completely personal from person to person, depending on their own natal chart and how things are configured and interrelated to each other. But in worst case scenario, this can be a complete body breakdown if you don't take care of it or of something. But it can, on the other side, have the same ability to completely regenerate again physically. From something physical that health-wise. So it could be that you went through a real dip, but you are now getting healthier and things are getting better, and it does a complete transformation in that area of your life. And if there is no health issues at all, it can also indicate just intense physical endurance and very powerful physically. A very powerful drive as well. It can maybe signify that you need to make some changes in this area. Maybe you need to change your diet. It can sometimes indicate great changes in work, in your daily work habits or your environment at work. It can cause tension with coworkers or people that surround you at work. A boss, it can be employees working with you or under you, a tenant. It can even be a doctor or an uncle or an aunt or someone in that area. It can also be duties and responsibilities that are extremely heavy and causes a lot of stress and tension. A type of power struggles that you could be going through here. It might indicate that you need to transform the job that you're doing. Maybe you're supposed to do something else, or you are changing jobs quite often in order for you to find something that really suits you. Because the nature of Pluto is to tear down first before it builds up again. So it can be a kind of a wrecking ball in some ways, but it's very regenerative. It can also indicate regenerative therapies health-wise. It can indicate secret jobs that others are not supposed to know about. Or it can even be an illness that's very hidden, that you're unaware of. So it might be a good idea if you've been getting, symptoms of any kind to even check that out. But through this transit, you will be regenerated, and it'll transform the way you live your daily life in a positive way, and how you and also how others see you and how you treat others. And then Neptune will be in Pisces, and has been in Pisces since 2011-12 until 2025. And this is in your 8th house. And your 8th house deals with dowry, alimony, it deals with inheritance, taxes. It can also be losses, it can be bankruptcy, injury, surgery, it can be death, it can be trauma, it can be shared money, your spouse's income, or shared money with a business partner. It can be your intimacy, and so forth. Now, with Neptune in this area of joint financial affairs, you need to be aware that there could be issues that are going on that you're not aware of, or that is not being entirely handled above board. There can be misrepresentation in regarding taxes or investments or insurances or joint issues or joint accounts with people. So just be aware of that.
And this can make you very attuned to the spiritual world. It's a very powerful placement, but you want to curb the tendency to drift into an illusion with this transit. You can have a very vivid imagination with Neptune here. You can also have very powerful visions and dreams that are very meaningful, also to do with your past and the future, but especially your past and traumas that you might have had, and these things could be brought up in order for you to deal with them and heal them. Because this transit will bring your attention to some deep aspects of the subconscious mind. Your interest in the hidden sciences could increase. You could maybe decide to study astrology or psychology or some kind of philosophy. It can be a good time to begin psychotherapy or something like that if you've been thinking about it. But basically, it's a type of death that you're going through in this area. Something is falling away and something is being replaced. And sometimes it can be a person dying that really affects you powerfully on a very deep level. Or it can just be an event, or it might not even be someone in your life specifically, but that's something that has such a huge impact on you. A near-death experience maybe, or a dream, or a contact with a person that just profoundly changes your life on a very deep level, and you're ready to let that part of you die and have rebirth there. Sometimes it can bring literal death of someone that you might know. And if that is the case, there could be mysterious conditions surrounding that case. But either way, it'll be something that moves you deeply. This is also not a good time to borrow money if you can help it. And be aware of all kinds of misunderstandings and possibilities of deception when it comes to other people's money or shared resources and so forth. And then Uranus will be in Taurus, and is in Taurus as of the 2018 until 2026. And that is in your 10th house. And your 10th house is your career, it's fate, it is your reputation, it's your status, it's notoriety, it's how the world sees you, it's your success in life, it's also for example, your parents or cousins, your superiors, your boss, and so forth. Now, with Uranus in this area, there can be a radical change in your professional life during its transit. It can bring in sometimes conflicts with authority figures, because Uranus wants its own way and usually wants to do things in a different way that other people can't always understand or identify with. So it can bring up conflicts just because of the fact that it's even just different. But you can also change the way you express your identity. Your social status could change, or your reputation or your profession itself can be challenged in some way. You might feel a strong desire to break out of a mold in this area if you've been feeling restricted here. Just be cautious of outbursts or anger in this area, because there could be consequences, especially if it's in the case of maybe government oppression of some kind. You want to be cautious for the consequences thereafter. But it can also bring in new opportunities of work, or a revolutionary idea in the workplace, or maybe a new technology or a new way of conducting business, or new people that you're doing business with, or a new boss, a boss that's very unconventional. Or it can be that you are doing a job now that is very different, that's got to do with innovation, or space, or science of some kind, or astrology, something unconventional. It can also just indicate a new path, a different path as far as your direction in life. It can even indicate a sudden move to a that was unexpected, and it changes everything in your life. If you are someone that's in a very high position, this can sometimes, if it manifested in a negative way, it could be like a fall from power in that case. Not for everyone. Many things have to point at this, but these are possibilities. Like sort of a fall from grace in a way, socially, or something like that. Like you do something that's unacceptable socially, and others don't approve of it, or something like that. Or maybe you are just standing up for your rights and others are not okay with it. But this is a time that you'll be examining who you are authentically, and what you're doing in your life, and how what you're doing in your life is resonating with who you are. And you want this to merge. You don't want this to be separated. It can also affect your marriage status, money losses or gains unexpectedly. It can be fluctuations financially or with work. It can be on and off work. And you can be spending much time reevaluating your values and your talents and your security. Your whole value system might change during this 7-year transit. And then Saturn will be in Aquarius as of December 2020 until 2023 in your 7th house. And your 7th house deals with your partner, your spouse or significant other, a business partner, nieces and nephews, the public. It's partnerships and open enemies. Now, with Saturn here, your close relationships, like your partnerships, are coming into focus. And there can be, there's a sort of a culmination process when Saturn comes to this house. That began about 14 years ago, when it was in your first house, where you started to redefine yourself in your own way and who you are. And now you are going to start transforming and redefining who you are in regards to partnerships and one-on-one relationships, and what your role is in a marriage or in a business partnership, and so forth. So there will be more challenges in the relationship area. It might be a bit of a difficult transit for some, depending on what your relationship condition is in right now. It might start out difficult and then end up very well. Some relationships can end with this transit, and for some it just indicates a lot of hard work in that area. Sometimes it can be a separation, not necessarily a split, but time apart, or maybe an emotional type of separation where there's not a lot of communication or intimacy or sharing going on. Like the relationship has kind of gone cold. It can also indicate that you might start getting recognized for what you do at work, for example, in the work environment, and some of your coworkers could maybe feel threatened by that, because they are noticing that you are, of your progress and your accomplishments. But it's important that you do your best, whether it's a relationship, whatever it is, so that you can reap the best benefits from this transit. You want to play by the rules, and you really want to try and understand your relationship during this transit, if you're in one, and really make clear what your expectations are of your partner and what theirs are of you, and are you living up to that? Are they living up to that? So it's definitely an investigation in that, having a deeper look, because this is also in your chart an indication here with Aquarius on the 7th house cusp that you tend to like your freedom in relationships, and you have a tendency to approach your differences more rationally, and with Saturn here that will be the case. It will be a more rational approach, and it will help you to look at things objectively and not from an emotional point of view. And then Jupiter will also be moving into that 7th house of Aquarius in December 2020. And it'll be in that house until the end of the year, around 20th of November. But it'll briefly move into Aquarius, into Pisces. It'll briefly move into Pisces around May and June of the year. Now, while Jupiter is in your 7th house, it will be there with Saturn. So that the first year of that 2.5-year transit of Saturn through this house will be much more positive, in the sense that Jupiter will be there really uplifting things and bringing optimism in this area. It'll inspire tolerance and an unconventional code of ethics, so to speak. You'll not be as adamant to impose your wants onto others. You'll be more broad-minded, and you'll benefit from each other's relationship to each other, and also from friends. And there's also a chance of benefiting spiritually. And if you are single, this could be someone coming into your life, maybe someone that's already kind of settled in their life, and they've got, things organized. They might be quite wise, someone that actually teaches you things as well, but that changes your life in a very positive way. And it can also indicate interaction with a lawyer or a consultant or a preacher of some kind. It could be a marriage where the preacher's coming into the picture, or it could be a divorce with the lawyer coming into the picture, or it could just be a lawsuit in general that has nothing to do with a personal relationship. It can be the outcome of a court settlement that's very positive and favorable. With Jupiter here, you don't want to overlook details, because Jupiter can sometimes not see the little things. So you want to not trip up on the little things if you are doing something legal. And don't try to get more than what you're due if you're in a court case of some kind. Don't overestimate. But this will be a very positive transit. So that first year of Saturn in that area will be lifted in a beautiful way, and you will have learnt or gained a lot of wisdom from whatever it is that you're experiencing through that year. And then Jupiter will be in Pisces in your 8th house for May and June. And this will intensely expand your kindness and compassion. You just want to be very careful financially in regards to freeloaders or unsound causes, like donating to charities that are fraudulent. Be careful of spiritual groups or cults that are not, that are false. This can in some cases indicate inheritance. You can benefit from others' resources here. And it can be a good time to actually pool resources or start, a contract with a business partner or something like that. It's usually good for loans unless there's other reasons why you should not. And this can mean help from others. So if you've applied for loans, you might get them approved because of Jupiter here, or you might get assistance financially in some other way, whether it's through, inheritance or alimony or whatever it may be. But the changes that you're going through right now will enrich your life in the future for the long run. And you'll have a deeper understanding of your own psychology once Jupiter has been in your 8th house. It's a wonderful time to really spend in prayer and deal with past traumas with Jupiter there, because Jupiter is a wonderful healing energy and very amazing with spiritual regeneration. And then let's have a look at Mars. Mars will be transiting into Taurus by the 7th of January, and that is your 10th house of career, status, reputation, parents, employer, etc. And with Mars here, it will strengthen your determination. It'll give you a more practical approach and direction. And it can be a slow start, but very purposeful. And it'll give you a lot more energy and ambition to achieve. Your activities might be more geared towards money making, or working with the earth, even pottery. But if it's something that you really enjoy or that you're really passionate about, you'll be able to work really hard at it and get it done. It might mean that you are working on an independent project, or it might be a good idea to work more independently if you can, because with Mars in this area, you can sometimes come into conflict with authority figures at work and so forth. It can be harder for you to take orders from others. It might even be a time where you decide that you want to be your own boss and do your own thing. It can sometimes feel as if the government or someone in authority, even a parent, sort of wants to stop your efforts here in some way. But it would benefit you to align with them in order for them to help you, because this will assist you getting ahead. And then Mars will also be conjuncting Uranus while it's here. And that can bring about sudden change in your career, or even a boss, an employer. It can be a sudden change of pace at work, or a different type of technology, or a different type of method that you need to use now. It can cause outbursts aggressively. You can suddenly just decide to quit and work for yourself. It can just mean a sudden ending of what it is you're doing at work. It can be the flash of an insight, of a wonderful idea. It can be something unexpected happening in regards to your parents or your job, or even moving, unexpectedly moving, which would then also affect your job. And this can also indicate unexpected events in regards to parental figures, as well as cousins. And then Mars will be in Cancer in your 12th house by the 23rd of March. And your 12th house deals with endings. It deals with separation, seclusion, faraway places, self-sabotaging habits. It can deal with loss. It can deal with grief, hospitals, and general reclusiveness, depression, that kind of thing. Now with Mars here, past family anxieties and subconscious patterns from the past can stick its head out. You can be a lot more emotional during this transit and get overly emotionally involved in a personal level with things. You could be more sensitive to criticism. You could have conflicts with your mother or women in general, or just family. You could feel like you're not getting the credit you deserve and you're sort of in the background. And what you need to be aware of is the issues that are coming up now that are being triggered in order for you to resolve them. So this is a good opportunity to work on past self-sabotaging habits like drinking or drugs or unforgiveness, or whatever it is from the past, neglect, and so forth. Because these, if you don't deal with these patterns, they can influence you without you even knowing it. And this can sometimes indicate a person working behind the scenes sort of against you in a way, like sort of like a secret enemy. That might just be blocking your efforts behind the scenes because they don't want to deal with whatever it is that maybe there's a communication problem and they don't know how to tell you. And so they're kind of avoiding you or going about things in a roundabout way in order to not confront your anger, maybe even. But this is a time where you might be working behind the scenes or working from home or in a secluded space, working in a hospital, working in a faraway place. This is a great time to do social service work in order for you to also get your ego out of the way. Now, with Mars in this area, it will also be opposing Pluto at some point. That's in your 6th house. And this can cause, this can cause in some cases illness. It can bring up issues with conflicts and aggressiveness in regards to tenants, or it can even be an attack by a pet, an unexpected, a dog that maybe, bites unexpectedly, a family member, something like that. It can be anger issues or conflicts or power struggles in regards to maybe your physician or a dentist, someone that treats your health in some way. It can be intense enough that you might quit your job or suddenly quit a treatment that you're on in some way. But these are just sort of intense ways that this can show up. But this is a time where whatever it is that you're dealing with that's coming up, whether it's a symptom of an illness or if it's just something to do with your everyday job, you want to get help with this situation. You don't want to go at this alone. So whatever it is that you're dealing with at this time, ask for help. That's the wise thing to do here. And then Mars will be in Leo in your first house as of the 11th of June. And your first house deals with your physical health as well. It's your body. It's the way you present yourself. It's your personality. It's how other people see you when they first meet you. It's your perspective, your intentions, and the way you have your attitude towards life, and your look, your style. It's also the present. It's now. And with Mars here, you'll have more of a drive for power, and your urge to succeed is going to be more magnified. You'll have more willpower and leadership ability with Mars here. You'll have more pride and confidence. Your sexual drive will be more vigorous. And you might have a lot more energy, and your life might take on a faster pace during this transit. You could also be spending more time working and just being a harder worker during this time. Sometimes it can suggest a more selfish attitude during this transit. So just be aware of other people's feelings and perspectives and views. Otherwise, it can bring difficulties in relationships, because you'll feel more independent and you might be more dominant in your personality during this time, because you'll want to be individually noticed more, and you'll be willing to really fight for your own rights with this transit, and you'll be more passionate, so you could be evoking anger much easier. You could have a very high physical energy with this transit and get much done. It's a really positive time for achieving. And just be careful also of your heart health, inflammation, headaches, fever, accidents with this transit, vehicle accidents, injuries with anything sharp or machinery, and so forth. And while Mars is in this area, it will also oppose Saturn. And during this opposition, you might find yourself physically slowing down, or just maybe feeling a little bit more inadequate than you were feeling. It can also bring separation in between you and your partner or a business partner. It can bring in legal issues sometimes, responsibilities in regards to your close relationships, or like I said, a separation, or it can bring in a commitment as far as a relationship is concerned. You could be working on a stronger commitment in your relationship. And then Mars will be in Virgo, your second house, as of the 29th of July. And while Mars is in your second house deals with movable possessions. It deals with what you eat. It deals with your income, your job, your investments, resources, your values, your self-worth, your security, and so forth. And with Mars here, you might have a tendency to spend more easily than you normally do. So try and be sensible with your financial affairs during this transit. You might be working in a much more efficient and orderly way with this transit, and be more geared towards practical solutions. Your health, hygiene, and cleanliness can become more of a focus for you during this time. You can also be more critical of others and also critical of yourself, and maybe very nitpicky on spending and and saving every penny and so forth, or or what is the money being spent on. So just watch extremes as far as that is concerned. You could be going through a transit where you're identifying your ego with what you own and what you do, and that your financial position is basically what, deciding what your worth is. So it's important to remind yourself that that is not the case, and that you yourself and God decides what your worth is, and not what you earn, or what you have or what you possess. It can bring up arguments about belief systems, about values, morals. It can bring up arguments around possessions and property. It can bring in impulsive purchases, because Mars can be impulsive. It can also indicate that you're using your possessions for work. It can indicate a new business that you're starting, maybe a health business, or something in regards to health. But you'll be more willing to defend your values with this transit. Just be careful not to shove it down others' throats. And you'll probably notice that you might be eating faster, or spicier food, or speaking faster, or maybe you're doing a lot of speeches during this time. You also want to watch issues with your thyroid during Mars's transit in this house. Now, while it's here, it'll oppose Neptune at some point, and this can indicate deception in regards to money and financial issues and shared resources and so forth, or just uncertainty. It might not be deception, it might just be uncertainty or loss of money in some way. But it will have something to do with your shared resources, or it could also be a spiritual conviction of some kind in regards to your values and your morals, and how you're spending your money, or what you're doing for a living in order to earn that money. And then Mars will be in Scorpio in your 4th house around the 30th of October. And your 4th house deals with domestic affairs, it deals with inheritance, your home, your parents, it deals with family, it deals with your childhood and past experiences, and so forth. Now, with Mars here, your domestic affairs could be handled in a secret way of some kind. You could be very, it can emphasize your loyalty towards your family. It can indicate a forceful drive that gives you that ability to tackle overwhelming odds. Your sex drive will be more powerful during this time. But it can also stir up feelings from the past, deep feelings from your childhood and behavior patterns that you need to deal with, because it can make you act inappropriately and make it difficult for others to be around you. Sometimes it can just mean that you're very irritable, you're conflicting and having fights over nothing. But in general, this can mean that it's a busy time in your home. You're busy working on the home, maybe you're building a home, or maybe you're working from home now. It can mean conflicts with family or people that you live with. It can mean that you want to live alone, or that you want to spend a lot of time alone, or you want to do things in your own way. You want this picture here and that thing there, and you're not getting along with others and cooperating well. It can sometimes indicate disputes over land ownership, in some cases. Now, with Mars in this area, it'll oppose Uranus at some point. And this can bring out aggression, outbursts, impatience, and so forth. Also in regards to your employer or your work-home relationship can have something to do with this. Now let's have a look at the retrogrades for 2021. Now Mercury will be retrograding in all 3 air signs. So there's a very high emphasis on air this year, with us moving into the age of Aquarius, Mercury retrograding in all 3 air signs. So it's very much media, information, communication, the mind, it's very, very emphasized. And Mercury will retrograde from January 30th to February 21st in Aquarius. And that's your 7th house of relationships. And this could be a time where you're reflecting on your personal relationships, you're rethinking them, you're weighing them, you're, discussing them. Where's the imbalance? Where can I fix this? Where can I fix that? And this is not just close relationships. This is business relationships too, or even your relationship with the public and with friends and group alliances that can be tested under this. There can be miscommunication in relationships, and you definitely do not want to sign any contracts with Mercury retrograde here. To try and negotiate until you can sign things. Of course, if these are decisions that were made before Mercury went retrograde, it might work out fine, but I'd still not recommend it because it could still just cause misunderstandings and having to redo things and just cause simple inconveniences. And then Mercury will retrograde from May 30th till June 23rd in Gemini, your 11th house of hopes and dreams, groups, memberships, alliances, legislation, politics, and so forth. And here you might have old friends or family or siblings coming back into your life, whether it's mentally through memories or whether it's through feelings or through physical contact. But it's coming up in order for you to deal with what's being triggered. You might be reassessing the company you work for's financials or legislation in general. Your social gatherings might be much less during this time. If you hear of any gossip, it might be untrue, so be careful of that. And don't judge others too easily during this. And then it will also retrograde in Libra, your 3rd house of communications, short trips, commuting to work, schooling, communication. It's the mind, it's your decision making, it's your language skills, it's learning, it's skills in general, it's your neighborhood. Did I say siblings, family, and so forth? The mailman. And Mercury will be retrograding here September 27th to October 18th. So you might have traffic jams, rerouting. This can also bring back lovers or love issues. Money issues can be thought during this time. How you are, what you're purchasing. 3rd house is also trade. And it can also be misunderstandings in regards to emails, communication, phone calls, talking to people and whether they're understanding you or not. Your schedule might be going through a lot of disruption. So throughout these retrogrades, regardless of where they are, it's good to stick to the main rules of Mercury retrograde and double check everything. You know, if you're talking, make sure they understand you. If you're listening, make sure you understand. If you're sending an email, make sure it went through. If you're not sure, make a direct phone call. Don't buy new electronics if you can help it during a Mercury retrograde. Be careful of it being stolen. Don't do any beauty procedures during the Libra retrograde, which is September 27th to October 18th. And don't sign any contracts if you can help it. If you can reschedule tests, that's great. Sometimes this Mercury retrograde will simply bring up a redo. You might just redo a test that you've done previously. And then let's have a look at Venus. Venus will be retrograding in Capricorn, December 19th to January 29th of 2022. And this can bring up issues related to love or money. Old lovers can also show up with this transit. And this is where you're rethinking financials, your partner, your values. It can be friends. It can even be your career. Now, you could be really reassessing your health habits and routines on a daily basis. Also, your habits at work. You could be looking at beauty products and habits affecting your health. You could be reorganizing and redecorating your office during this time, and really reevaluating whether your work and your daily activities are reflecting your inner truth and your inner values as well. And of course, financially, you could be rethinking the money that you're earning through your daily work, or what you are doing with your money in general. And then let's have a look at Jupiter. Jupiter will be retrograding June 20th to October 18th, and this will be in Pisces, back into Aquarius. And this is a period of inner spiritual growth and reflection. And you'll find yourself more compassionate during this time, with more emphasis on the meaning of life and the deeper, higher knowledge and ideas and understanding. You might find yourself spending more time in prayer, questioning your beliefs and your inner truth, who you share your life with, who you share your resources with. This is a good time to focus on forgiveness and healing, and to allow yourself to be vulnerable. You can possibly meet a soulmate during this retrograde, someone that's much wiser, someone that's really teaching you things. And be careful of not judging people too quickly, because it could be that you are judging someone before you're giving them a chance to show who they are, and they could actually be the one you've been waiting for. It can also be a time where a consultant or someone like a teacher or a wise person or someone comes into your life and really changes your perspective on things. And you might not have been expecting that. And then Saturn will be retrograding May 23rd till October 11th in Aquarius, in your 7th house of relationships. And this is usually a time of restructuring and planning. Now, Saturn reminds us of reality and the aspects of life we cannot avoid, like rules, regulations, responsibilities, time itself, the length of life, karma, restrictions, all of those things. And with Saturn retrograde here, it's showing you that your relationship is needing care at this time. So this is a good time to take a very objective and realistic view of your relationship situation and to see what you need to do to balance the scales and to make it work or not. It can also just mean actual work that's needed on the relationship in regards to your one-on-one relationships with a partner, or even business partnerships, or even nieces and nephews, a lawyer, the public, and so forth. And let's have a look at the eclipses for 2021. There will be a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius on the 26th of May in your 5th house that deals with children, pregnancy, speculation, fun, creative projects, sports, entertainment, and so forth. And this is basically the fruition or the ending or completion or something coming to a head in the 5th house. This could be a love affair that's coming to a head. It could be a pregnancy. It could be a creative project that you are about to finish or that's coming in full circle for you. It could have something to do with a child who's maybe completing something in their life. It could be a sport, something of a sport event or ballet classes or some activity that you used to maybe do for fun that's not fun anymore, and you are now contemplating, changing that or doing something else. I'm not going to go into all of the details of the eclipses now. There's just too much to look at. I will be doing videos on these throughout the year, so please check them out. I'm simply showing you the area of life where you could be affected during the eclipse. And eclipses, of course, they are of a longer influence. So when I say there's an ending or a beginning, it doesn't mean that it's that day. It can have a 6-month to a year effect, usually more of 6 months, but where you will be experiencing this happening in that area of your life as a possibility. Now, on the 10th of June, there will be a solar eclipse in Gemini in your 11th house. And this can be a new beginning or a new leaf turned or a new intention set in that area of your life. It could be a new goal or a new dream that you're focusing on. It can be a new alliance that you've formed, a new friend or a new group that you joined, an AA membership or a gym membership or a rugby team. Or it could be that you're part of a new group at work, or there's something going on in the area of coworkers. It can be a new connection with someone online, or a new technology of some kind that's being used, or a new activity that's got to do with serving the community, or doing some kind of volunteer work. And then it can also have something to do with the people of that house, which could be a son and daughter-in-law, or friends, or co-workers, and so forth. And then the 19th of November, there will be a lunar eclipse in Taurus, your 10th house. And here you can have a ending or completion or something coming to a head in your career. It can be a boss that's leaving or it's changing positions. It can be you changing positions or changing careers. It can be the direction of your life that's coming into fruition, or your status, your position It can also affect your living place and where you live, and your status as well. And then on the 4th of December, there's a solar eclipse in Sagittarius again, the 5th house. So this house is getting hit twice for you, the 5th house. And this is a new beginning after there was now an ending in that area, some kind of fruition in the area of the 5th house. Now there's a new beginning. So this can be children, it can be a new baby, it can be a new relationship with your child. You could have a new perspective or a new understanding about your children, or about having fun. You could have started a new activity that you find extremely joyful and entertaining. You might have started to take piano lessons. You might feel like you're really getting to know yourself now, and you've found a new way of expressing yourself. It can be a new creative project that you're starting, like a new painting or even a new business that's got to do with something that you are starting by yourself, that you are creating. It can be a new pregnancy. It can be a breakthrough with a child. It can be a new child, whether it's an adoption or an actual birth. Sometimes it can indicate the beginning of a love affair, or of maybe an investment of some kind. But in general, it is the beginning or a new leaf being turned in that area. Now, through most of the year, there'll be an uncomfortable square between Uranus and Taurus in your 10th house of career, and Saturn in Aquarius in your 7th house of relationships. Now, collectively, everyone will be experiencing this. This is the old versus the new. It's freedom versus restriction. So everyone will be experiencing this, but in different ways as well as similar ways. But in your case, it'll be mainly your 10th house of career and your 7th house of relationships. And because these are angular houses, they tend to affect everything. When they get rattled, everything sort of gets rattled. So if it affects your work, it might affect where you live, who you date, your the way you express yourself. So it might bring up some challenges, but remember that this too shall pass, and that everyone is going through these challenges collectively. And therefore, I would also recommend the essential oil of Vetiver and Chrysocolla as a crystal. Now, Vetiver has wonderful benefits that is absolutely amazing against the effects of chemotherapy. It improves sexual desire. It helps to calm the nerves. It's a popular sedative. It's very healing for any types of inflammation. I'm not giving you health advice here, so please check out all the contraindications. But I would suggest Vetiver definitely as a calm inducing oil. You can, of course, put it in a diffuser. You can mix it with a carrier oil and so forth. And I will also be putting in the link in the description box below for these essential oils that I really consider is some of the best quality essential oils that you can get out there. And Chrysocolla is a wonderful stone that calms and revitalizes. It eases emotional heartache, and it increases one's capacity to love. It also helps you with grounding and stabilizing and balancing energies. It's great for inner strength and to help during stressful, long-enduring situations. It can also help you to release the stress that's been culminating emotionally. And it's great for purifying the home and the environment as well. Well, Leo, I want to thank you for allowing me to guide you through 2021. May God bless you and keep you. May the sun shine bright on you this day and this year.